Hare Krishna. We will discuss today on the topic of mapping the inner journey. So this is based on Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, specifically the explanation of the stages of bhakti given by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his book Madhurya Kadambini. So in the first, this will be 7 10-minute talks, where in the first talk I will mention about how what about the whole concept. I'll explain the first 10 minutes, and in the next short 10-minute talks I'll discuss each of the 6 stages which Madhurya Kadambini mentions while rising from unsteadiness to steadiness. So, mapping the inner journey. Usually when we want to go on a journey, we need to have a map. Nowadays, with net connectivity there, and with the people having high-tech devices, we can use GPS very easily, and that GPS acts like both a map and a guide. A map shows us the way, and a guide further tells us, okay, make turn left, go right, go straight, go slow. So the combination of a map and a guide makes the journey much easier. So the guide, of course, is our spiritual master in our spiritual journey. The map is given in scripture, and it is elaborated by the great acharyas. So we have this elaboration going more and more detailed and vivid as we move onwards, as we move downwards in the parampara. So the map of the inner journey comes primarily in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 2nd chapter of the 1st canto, where Suta Goswami describes how one rises from the initial stage of bhakti to the perfection of bhakti. So this section 1.2.6 to 1.2.22 approximately, where the process of Bhagavad Dharma is the goal of Bhagavad Dharma, and the process of Bhagavad Dharma is talked about. So overall its glory is described. So especially from the 12th verse onwards till 1890 verses, Srila Prabhupada also quotes this in his Markine Bhagavad Dharma, and there it is described how, for example, from the 16th verse onward, it says, Shunvatam Swakatha Krishna. By hearing about Krishna, Punya Shravana Kirtana, Hridayantastoya Bhadrani, Vidhanoti Sarasadam, Shishusha Saddadhanasya, Tadarjastamo Bhava, Vidyate Hridaya Granthes. So the various figures are described that once we start hearing and serving, we get purified. The lower modes subside, and especially let's consider this one verse. Tadarjastamo Bhava Kamalobhadayaschaye Chetaytairana Vidham Sitam Sattve Prasidati. That Chitam Sitam Sattve, that will become fixed in Sattva Guna by the practice of bhakti involving hearing and serving. And then what happens when we are situated in Sattva Guna? Sukham Sattve Prasidati. We become joyful, and then gradually, as we keep practicing bhakti joyfully, then spiritual knowledge becomes revealed, and as the spiritual knowledge becomes revealed, then we start understanding perfectly the truth. The doubts get dissipated, the attachments get cut, the karmically entangling activities stop, and we move onwards steadily towards Krishna. So now this sequence, which is succinctly described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, is analytically elaborated and categorized in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, where Rupa Goswami talks about the inner journey, and he talks about several stages. So he starts with Adau Shraddha Sadhu Sangha Bhajan Kriya Anartha Nivritti Syat. So like that he goes on. Then Nishtha, Ruchi, Asakti, Bhav, Prema. 9 stages he talks about. So he starts with Shraddha. With a little faith we inquire, okay, what is the spiritual stuff? What is this chanting? What is this Bhagavad Gita? What is this Bhakti Yoga? So when we ask about this, Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, and Sadhu Sangha refers to the association of devotees. So in association, we learn how to practice bhakti. We learn how to do bhajana kriya. Sadhu sangha, we do bhajana kriya. And then bhajana kriya leads to anartha nivritti, the removal of the contaminations from the art. And after anartha nivritti is done, then what happens after that? Then there is nishtha. The faith becomes very strong. And then from the, once the faith is strong, then the practice becomes steady, and then one moves. So actually from bhajana kriya till nishtha, it is like if you're climbing a mountain, it's a steep incline. But after that, it's like a home run. It's more like a plateau where you just move along straight. So then from nishtha, ruchi, asakti, bhava, prema, we move along relatively with far lesser difficulty. Still, there is always the struggle as long as we are in material existence and as long as we have the material body and mind. But the struggle becomes much lesser once the anarthas are overcome. So now these anarthas, generally we refer to it as lust, anger, greed, and we pride and illusion. Yes, that's true. Along with that, while overcoming these anarthas, while practicing bhakti, while having the anarthas and while trying to battle the anarthas, we go through various stages. And those stages are what are being discussed here. So we will be discussing Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his book Madhurya Kadambini elaborates further on what has been said by Rupa Goswami, the stage which he has analyzed. So he says that the stage before Anartha Nivritti, that is Bhajana Kriya. Now it is not that Bhajana Kriya stops after Anartha Nivritti. So these are not necessarily, these are sequential in a sense, but they are not like one stage ends and the other begins. Like when we go on a staircase, there's one step and the next step. So it is not that we could say that the previous step has ended and the next step has come. But then the next step is built on the previous step. And the next step is built on the previous step. So essentially, the point which I am making is that it's not that it's not that we give up bhajan kriya. Rather, we recognize that bhajan kriya is what is its intensity, its steadiness is what changes after Anartha Nivritti. Bhajan kriya always continues. So the soul is always devoted to Krishna, but the intensity with which the soul is devoted, that the steadiness with which the soul is devoted, which the soul practices bhajan kriya, that varies. So there is initially anishchit bhajana kriya, in which the soul's practice is unsteady, and then there is nishchit bhajana kriya, where the soul's practice is steady. And that difference is what we need to take into account when we look at this subject, anishchit bhajana kriya, nishchit bhajana kriya. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that there are 6 stages in the journey from anishchit bhajana kriya, which happens at the stage of bhajana kriya in Rupa Goswami analysis, and nishchit bhajana kriya, which happens when one goes through the stage of anartha nivritti and comes to the stage of nishtha. So bhajana kriya, nishtha, bhajana kriya, anartha nivritti, nishtha. So from bhajana kriya, at which Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur calls us anishchit bhajana kriya, and then there is nishtha. At that stage, one is practicing nishchit bhajana kriya. So what are the stages one goes through in between? That is what we will discuss. So broadly speaking, we can consider bhakti to be like a spiritual treatment. And just like when a person takes treatment initially, that person is trying out, and the person may or may not be very committed to take the medicines properly. And the mind may go through different phases of should I take this medicine or not? Maybe if I skip one day it won't matter. Maybe if the medicine tastes too bitter, I can take in less dosage. Or maybe I can try something else or whatever. So just as a person, when the person is sick and is trying out a new treatment, although there is some amount of enthusiasm, hope that one will be cured, but there is also a certain amount of uncertainty and skepticism whether things will work or not. So because of these ambivalent emotions, the person's commitment to the taking of the medicine may not be very steady. But if that person is, so after taking that patient, after taking the medicine, is significantly, substantially cured, then the patient will start taking the treatment much more seriously to be thoroughly cured of the disease. So that's how in unsteady practices like the initial tentative taking of the treatment, and the steady practices like the determined adherence to the treatment program. So these 6 stages which are intermediate, we will discuss from our next talk onwards. Thank you. Hare Krishna.